Welcome back. So I want to talk a little bit more about my Optiplex 3010 and why I have this machine. So I've been using an iMac, in fact there it is, a 2009 iMac as a temporary machine between my MSI laptop that I just sold and the next step, the next move in a daily driver, so to speak, for my home. And my plan was to buy a brand new iMac, and I just didn't want to spend the money on a new Mac right now. So I went ahead and I cobbled together this Dell system here. This is a corporate desktop. These were primarily sold to businesses, government agencies, education institutions as low-cost, quiet, reliable, and expandable desktop computers. In fact, you can still buy a 3000 series Dell Optiplex. It's a different machine but similar chassis. Anyway, it was one of those deals that I couldn't pass up. Let's just put it that way. So I had to buy a monitor for it. I had to buy a keyboard and a mouse. Turns out I didn't have any good USB keyboards except for this wireless one that I use for my home theater PC. And I used some speakers that I already had, and I still have the USB Logitech gamepad that I bought for the MSI. I forgot to ship it out to the guy who bought it. Whoops. Anyway, so I'm going to get to the matter at hand. First of all, your responses to my previous video have been heard and received. Okay, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Two things. I bought the 3010 because it was available and I didn't go looking for it. I didn't buy it online. It was a local deal. I got it. Here it is. This is what I have. Now, somebody suggested that I throw this back into the swamp and buy a 9000 series or a 7000 series. To you, I have this. No. No. And again, no. This is what I have, okay? And it does everything I needed to do and more. I am blown away with how well this machine runs. I cannot believe how well it runs. I am shell-shocked as of right now. I'm serious, guys. This thing runs so well and so fast, just the way it is. 8 gigs of RAM. It is a quad-core i5, not a dual as I assumed. It is a quad-core i5. It has, a 500 gig mechanical hard drive, which is my next point. No, I am not buying an SSD for this machine. It's not happening. Stop telling me to buy an SSD. Not gonna happen. I'm not mad. I'm just like tired of seeing the same responses, and everyone's like, yeah, you should buy an SSD. You need an SSD. Why don't you buy an SSD? Where's the SSD? I don't see an SSD. Why don't you go buy one? Oh, look, here you can buy a 64 gig for $50. Listen, just stop it, please. I'm not offended. I'm not mad. It's just the same response every single time I open my email editor, Thunderbird. Anyway, I'm just tired of seeing it. Look, if you have an SSD to send me, I'll gladly accept it, but I'm not putting in anything smaller than a 512. But one of my viewers did give me an idea, and I forget who you are, but you'll know who you are when I say this. One of the problems with this Dell Optiplex, this particular case, it does have provisions for one extra drive, a 2.5-inch drive, but you need additional mounting hardware. I believe you need a little sled that goes in there, but I don't have that sled. And it doesn't have a power connector. It's actually located right under the optical drive, which I'm keeping in there, by the way. I'm actually going to use that drive. But just below that, there's a little tiny bay, and there is no power lead going to it, so I'd have to figure that out. I have to maybe splice one on, I don't know. But you can fit a 2.5-inch SSD or a laptop hard drive in that little pocket. But one of my viewers gave me an even better idea. Basically adding another drive controller. What you would do is you would use an M.2 style SSD, and that would install into an interface card that would just use up one of the PCI Express slots. Now it has 3 PCI Express 1X slots, and I'm thinking to myself, that would be grand. And what I would do is I would use that as my system drive, of course. That's what you would use the SSD for. And I would take the 500 gig out and put a 1 terabyte in its place. And that would be a storage drive. Got me thinking. You got me. Actually, I'd probably just go for something bigger than a terabyte. Actually, terabyte should be just big enough. And there we go. And that will shut up my viewers. That'll get you guys to shut up about the freaking SSDs, and it would improve system performance ever so slightly. Actually, quite a bit. I know how well an SSD would improve the system. I'm well aware. I wasn't born yesterday. I do the SSD upgrades at work all the time. In fact, most of the legacy systems that I still have at work, I've popped solid-state disks into them just to make them perform a little bit better, and the feedback has been tremendous. I have a whole fleet of IBM, actually they're now Lenovo ThinkPads, that they were just knock-around laptops, and I popped solid-state drives in all of them, and people are using them, and they're older machines, older than this desktop even, performing flawlessly. So I'm well aware of what an SSD would give me, but I'm going to show you why I don't need to spend that kind of money right now. But I like the idea. I can keep the 5 1/4 or the 3.5 inch drive in there, but just put something in that's a little bit bigger and use it for archival purposes, and then just pop a small little, and for applications, and then just pop a small, probably a 128 maybe, SSD in there, and there you go. And that takes the place of my system drive. Now let's take a look at how much of a dog this system is right now with its plebeian 500 gigabyte mechanical hard drive. Let's see how bad it is. I'm going to start it up, and you're going to see just how slow this thing really is. Just a dog. Oh my god, I don't know how anybody can live with a mechanical hard drive. Did you know they still sell computers with mechanical hard drives? Yeah, it's really still a thing. Because they're cheaper and they're bigger. But look at how slow this thing is. Oh my god, how am I gonna live with this drive? It's just so doggishly slow. Oh my god, it took what, 10 seconds to boot? Shit, that's slow. Man, oh man, oh man. Anyway, I'm being a wise ass because that's just what I am. No, it's all good, guys. I get it, though. A solid-state drive would really wake this thing up somehow. I'll admit, it's still hammering the drive, and I do have Steam installed now. You know, that brings me to my next point. Oh, it's doing an update. You know, how does this machine perform? Now, I've already edited some video on it, and once again, we've got... Here, I'll just tell you what it has for a processor in it right now. Let's take a look. Yeah, the drive right now is being hammered by this Steam update, and this is where an SSD would really speed things up. But it's not really necessary right now. It doesn't need to be done. It runs well enough for me, and I don't expect a lot from this machine. And I want to emphasize, I'm trying to not spend money on technology here. I'm trying to spend as little as humanly possible. I only bought this monitor because the only other monitor I have is a 19-inch, maybe a little bit small, about 19-inch diagonal. I actually have a real Dell monitor that was designed to go with this machine, and just too small. 19 inches is just too small for me. I wanted something bigger, a nice 22-inch. So we've got an i5 3470 quad core, 3.2 gigahertz, which is not too bad. 8 gigs of RAM once again. We're running Windows 10, and I did in fact use the Windows 7 Pro license to activate this, which got me Windows 10 Pro, which is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. I was really just... I didn't think I could use the OEM license to register Windows 10, but I'm glad I could. Saved me a lot of money there. What else can I tell you about this thing? So let's go ahead and launch Steam. Let's see how this plebeian corporate desktop performs. I've got my Logitech game controller here. I'm going to launch Rocket League. I have one friend playing Rocket League. I have no idea who that is. Let's see. Oh, I know who that is. I know exactly who that is. I am going to launch Rocket League. Here we go. Now, this is a 6-year-old desktop. You know, it really makes you think. I mean, why even buy a new computer these days? I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of improvements between, you know, systems of, you know, 6 years ago and systems today. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of improvements, but anything that's really that tangible just seems to be negligible, you know? Let's do I'm gonna play a local game here. Let's see. Do rookie bot level. I'm not really good at this game. I'm terrible. I am terrible at this game. I will admit. I'm gonna join the looks like I'm on the blue team. So let's see how bad this thing is. Oh, I've got bots going, so they're going to take up some resources here. So the frame rate is it's a bit delayed, a little bit. It's definitely not performing as well as my MSI did. I'll give you that. See if I can. Come on, baby. Oops. Demolish that guy. But we're playing this game on a 6-year-old machine with a mechanical hard drive, an i5, 8 gigs of RAM, Windows 10 Pro. And it's not doing so badly. I cannot justify the expense of a solid state drive right now. I just can't do it. You know. Like I said, the whole purpose of this project was to spend as little as humanly possible to get a machine with acceptable performance, and I think I managed to succeed. Okay? So that's where I'm at. We're not getting a solid state drive unless somebody donates one. And if I get one, I want it to be an M2, and I'll put it in a PCI Express interface carrier. That way, I can leave the rest of the system configured as it was from the factory. The 512 gig drive would be coming out, and in its place would go a multiple terabyte hard drive. I'm looking at something in the probably a 4 terabyte range. I mean, the prices on those must be pretty reasonable now. So if I'm gonna, I guess my point is either go big or go home. And right now I'm choosing to go home. That's it. That's the deal. So I apologize if I acted a little bit childish or rude in the comments to people that suggested, and there were many of you, get an SSD, get an SSD. Well, give me one, and I'll put it in. But that's what I'm looking for. That's the direction I kind of want to go with it. Let's see how long it takes to launch Pinnacle Studio. Now, I bought Pinnacle Studio based on reviews and recommendations from other people, and I wasn't pleased with it. I had it on my MSI GS63VR, and I found that Pinnacle Studio didn't like that laptop, or the laptop didn't like Pinnacle Studio, because there were issues with the driver, the video display drivers. There were some known issues that I ended up having. And that really ruined it for me. But you can see it loaded in a reasonable manner. Again, a solid state drive would be faster, you know, but this is what I got, and I'm happy with what I have. My investment was minimal, and the payoff was great. So there's that, and that's really where I'm at here. So no, that's what else is there to say, guys? What else is there to say? I love this monitor, man. This is the Acer. What model is this thing? This was a $100 special from Staples. It was very cheap. I believe it has onboard audio too, if you use the HDMI connector. I'm pretty sure it has speakers built in. And this is the R221Q. Very cheap monitor. It's very thin. You can see. This is how. Look at how thin this thing is. All the electronics are down here, of course. This is typical, by the way, of most LCD displays today that use a backlight, an LED backlight. They're able to make them very thin. The industry is really pushing towards curved displays now. It's not a gimmick. They really do offer some ergonomic advantages, but especially when you get into the bigger than this size, you know 24 inch and bigger, having a curved display is definitely a benefit. With LED backlighting, it is absolutely possible. But I mean, this just looks so crisp and clear. It's not an annoying glossy image or display. And oh yeah, one more thing. There was somebody who commented on the cooling inefficiencies of this machine, and I'm just gonna say this: it is quiet. It doesn't appear to be overheating, and the thermal paste, yeah, maybe should be taken off and replaced. I can see a benefit to doing that, and I have plenty of thermal paste. But I'm not going to do that. I just don't see it to be being necessary. If it starts to overheat in the fan, and I'll know that because the fan will start ramping up. Right now, it's basically at an idle. But if the fan begins to ramp up excessively, then I'll go through and I'll replace the thermal compound. But you know, I just don't see that as being necessary at this juncture. I think it'd be kind of neat, though, to make this a little hot rod. Put a solid state in it, put an i7 processor in it, you know, and do some other stuff, like maybe max out the RAM to 16 gig. And this thing would run like a mother. It would go well. It would do very well. But again, I don't want to spend the money right now. And there's that. That's it in a nutshell. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I'll be using this more often, and tomorrow I have a big purchase coming. Yes, instead of putting money into this machine, I'm actually buying another vintage computer. It's going to be cool, something I've been looking for, and I'm excited. I just have to drive 3 hours to get it. Puke. Anyway. There we are. There he was. There we gonna be.